At some point in your life, I'm sure you've asked yourself various questions, such as, who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? Where am I going? You've asked yourself these questions in the past, maybe when you were much younger. How often do you still ask these questions today? Do you ask your friends these questions? Do you ask your parents these questions? Do you ask your siblings these questions? What about your colleagues in school? Do you ask them these questions? What about your coworkers? Do you ask them these questions? Chances are you probably don't ask yourself these questions anymore, nor do you ask the people around you these questions. Let's be honest. If you go around asking these types of questions in a serious, inquisitive, investigative way, many friends you think you have will be gone in the blink of an eye. Many of them will be ashamed to be around you or even to identify you as a friend. Suddenly, you're the kooky, crazy, doofy, goofy guy. You don't fit in. You don't belong. You're not one of us. So, you raise these questions with nobody and nobody raises these questions with you. What often happens over time is that you cease to remember the days when you are genuinely interested in discovering the answers to these questions, and you go on living your life with the limited recollection of the inquisitiveness with which you were once replete. But why did you stop? Why did you stop? Did you cease the contemplation of these things because, after thorough investigation, you concluded that these questions were foolish and asinine? Or did you cease the contemplation of these questions because you have been brought up in an environment that is hostile to the pursuit of such knowledge? Is it possible, by any chance, that the burning desire you once had to obtain the knowledge of these things was quenched under the torrent of hostile influence? You know, the world rewards you for being a scientist, or an engineer, or a lawyer, or a doctor, or an accountant. The world rewards you for being a tennis player, or a football player, or a basketball player. The world rewards you when you are a big hedge fund manager, or an investment analyst on Wall Street, or an institutional trader of stocks, bonds, currencies, gold, oil, or Bitcoin. The world does not reward you for the intellectual contemplation of the meaning of your life. The world does not congratulate you because you discovered the answers to these questions. Who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? Where am I going? Who am I doesn't pay the mortgage. Where did I come from doesn't pay off that massive student loan debt. Why am I here doesn't impress HR officers who are recruiting young talent. Where am I going doesn't put food on the table for your spouse or for your children. Can you imagine, for one moment, actually going up to your boss and saying, "Sir, I finally discovered who I am. I understand why I'm here." Do you really think your boss cares that you've discovered yourself? Of course not. In fact, your boss might very well tell you to discover your way to the unemployment office. Then what next? No job? No money? Life ruined? Game over? You're done. So I get it. contemplating the cause of your birth, the purpose of your life, and the reason for your mortality, neither removes the pain of hunger nor supports the fragility of your corporeal constitution. Through sensory experience of the world, you learned at a young age to distinguish between pleasure and pain. You also learned that much pain is experienced when you are destitute of basic resources such as food, clothing, and shelter. But you also learned that much pleasure is experienced when you are able always to satisfy hunger, be adorned in appropriate clothing, and be sheltered in your own personal space, away from enemies and away from environmental disturbances. Naturally, you hate pain and wish to flee from it as much as possible and as far away as possible. This is not a bad thing. This is your nature and you cannot control it. You cannot change it. You must embrace it. You naturally resist pain and would rather enjoy pleasure and live entirely free from suffering. Except there is one problem. You need a little thing that we call money. Without it, you are destined to be overwhelmed by the very pain you naturally wish to escape, because it is the established medium of exchange, and without it, you will not be able to procure the basic resources that you need in order to obtain the happiness you naturally wish to enjoy. Tell me something though. When was the last time you were given money to solve these questions? Who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? Where am I going? I'm guessing probably never. You are not incentivized by the political and economic structure of things to solve these questions. You are incentivized instead by a defective political and economic system to exert the majority of your energy passing exams in school, to acquire some kind of certification that allows you to obtain a job that erodes most of your free time and compensates you with an amount of money that you probably find unsatisfactory and unjust, as you still struggle financially despite all your hard work, despite all your qualifications, despite all your job experience. This is the common experience in the modern world for a very large number of people. But if your environment had been different, if the political and economic structure of things had been more conducive to your happiness, and if the people around you had been more supportive of you when you originally were engaging in the contemplation of these questions, would you have neglected and abandoned the quest for this knowledge? For many people, I suspect the answer is no. They would have pursued the matter fervently until they arrived at the answers they were seeking from the beginning. Broadly speaking, in those days, long ago, when you first began seriously to investigate the questions, who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? And where am I going? At that time, you were essentially attempting to philosophize. You are attempting to investigate the reality of your own existence. And you are seeking answers based on your inherent power of logical reasoning. This is the essence of what it means to philosophize. Philosophy is not about random speculation or clever observations. Philosophy is not about arbitrary opinions and mythological fantasies. Philosophy is about systematic reasoning that builds conclusions from first principles through logical necessity. If we cannot prove a conclusion is absolutely necessary, we strive at least to demonstrate that it is the most reasonable conclusion amongst all potential hypotheses given the existing weight of evidence. If the arguments of a proposition are valid and the premises upon which they are built are true, then it is absolutely necessary in every respect that the conclusion should follow unavoidably. Herein rests the power of philosophy. One who governs himself philosophically is said to be a lover of wisdom, because he is attached to the practice of logically distinguishing between what is good for himself and what is bad for himself. When you are oppressed by ignorance, that ignorance will ensure that you fail to comprehend what is truly in your interest. Sensory experiences will present before you the illusion of what is good and the illusion of what is bad. But what is truly beneficial to you and what is truly harmful to you cannot be determined merely through sensory experiences alone. I mean, think about it. How often is a bird caught in the net of the hunter, or a mouse snapped to pieces in sudden destruction? If you keep your eyes fixed on the sun, you will become blind. If you listen constantly to loud noise, you will become deaf. Certain poisons smell good until your health is corrupted. Many people love the taste of sugar, but even as your health is failing through excessive sugar consumption, the taste remains enticing, just as it was in the beginning. Some foods nourish you when they are properly prepared, but the same food can become the cause of your downfall if it is handled improperly. The power of logical reasoning, however, is what prevents you from being deluded by the senses in all of these cases, because through logical reasoning, the truth is established, and through knowledge of truth, you are able to move yourself in the direction that is objectively aligned with your ultimate happiness. If logical reasoning is so important, and knowledge of truth so critical to your welfare, how can it possibly be harmless to remain oppressed by ignorance with respect to your own self, knowing neither who you are, nor where you came from, nor why you are here, nor where you are going? How will you be able to distinguish between what is truly profitable for yourself and unprofitable for yourself if you do not comprehend your own nature and the reality of yourself? In order then that you may be able to secure your own happiness, it is necessary that you should become a philosopher and philosophize about the reality of all things, because in knowing the nature of yourself and the nature of everything that surrounds you, you will be able to evade the inconspicuous destruction of your own happiness and instead attain to the possession of true felicity. It would not be in your interest, however, to abandon entirely the pursuit of money, because money remains absolutely necessary in order to gain access to basic resources of food, clothing, and shelter. And money is necessary to maintain good health and a clean environment. However, neither is it in your interest to abandon philosophy. As we have already demonstrated, that philosophy is a light that enables you to see the path to the final destination, where ultimate happiness may be obtained. Without philosophy, you inherit assumptions unconsciously and never examine them. You become incapable of logically defending what you believe, and you become incapable of recognizing contradictions in your own thinking. And all of us are oppressed by ignorance to some extent, even those among us who philosophize perpetually. But The one who philosophizes perpetually sees reality far more clearly than the one who scoffs at philosophy. And if you do not see reality clearly, then you will not see what is truly in your own interest. And in not seeing what is truly in your own interest, you are exposed to the grave danger of delusion. As you pursue what seems to be in your interest, but is actually hostile to yourself unknowingly. And ultimately, the result is the very unhappiness you strove all along to avoid. So, instead of abandoning philosophy altogether, it would be prudent to philosophize when you are able to philosophize, in order that you may obtain reasonable confidence in the validity of your knowledge in relation to what is objectively conducive to your ultimate happiness. We won't be able to obtain perfection of knowledge during the course of our life, but the more clearly we see reality as it truly exists, the more equipped we are to reach the final destination of ultimate happiness, towards which we are all naturally striving. Come on, join me on this journey as we together philosophize about all reality, from metaphysics to ethics to economics to politics. Is there an ultimate cause of all, or is there not an ultimate cause of all? What are we exactly? Why are we here? How should we live? Where are we going? What has been prior to us? What shall be subsequent to us? Can we answer these questions with absolute perfection through philosophy? Perhaps not. But can we answer these questions sufficiently so as to secure our own happiness in the end? Well, come and see, my friend. Come and see.